Is there intelligent life in the universe? God, I hope so. Because there sure as hell isn't any here on Earth. Hey kids, this is David's dad from David's Dad Forever. And man, are people ever stupid. How stupid are they? Well, they're so stupid that this is gonna have to be a multi-part video, because there's just no way that I can condense all the stupidity that's out there into a mere 10 minutes. I don't think I can do it in 20. Now David, before we get into the depths of stupidity here, I do want to make a couple of quick points. Number one, you can never overestimate the stupidity of the general public. And by that I mean that in any given situation that deals with the general public, you're going to have people, and sometimes a lot of people, that are going to misconstrue, misjudge, or just totally misread the situation altogether. Now, that being said, you should be very careful not to underestimate the intelligence of the individual. There are some very bright people out there, and quite often the next guy is going to be smarter than the last one. That is, unless they come before me. After me. Never mind. There's always going to be someone smarter, someone who can express themselves better, or someone that's more informed on a given subject. Which brings me to the next point, and that is being stupid doesn't mean that the person isn't intelligent. Brilliant people do brilliantly stupid things. You know the song. Everybody makes mistakes. I think that was a biggie. But Hannah Montana is right. Everybody does make mistakes. Now, while you can put stupid people into a lot of different categories, for this video I'm going to deal with people who I consider G.O.N.E. G.O.N.E is my acronym for Gullible, Oops, Narrow-Minded, and Egotistical. And I hope to clue you into the major symptoms and reactions of each of these types of people, and hopefully give you some ideas on how you can try and avoid becoming one of them. Now, first off, the gullible person is someone who's easily tricked or fooled. I think gullible people are great. I just love to mess with them. As long as you aren't trying to be cruel, malicious, or try to take advantage of them, I figure it's open season. One of my old girlfriends was absolutely spectacular. And I remember I used to love to see just how far I could go with her. She was a real sweetheart, though. She was actually pretty good in college. Maybe a little obsessed with her cat. She was hot. She's the blonde in the bikini in my last video. But I remember one time I had her firmly convinced that if you wanted to be a good bowler, you had to wear golf shoes. At the time, I went into great detail, but basically I told her how the sharp cleats on the bottom of the golf shoes would give you much better traction as you approach the lane. It'd also help you stop much faster, and all this would impart a whole lot more momentum onto the ball and get the ball to actually strike the pins with so much more force than you could ever do otherwise. And that's why all of the great bowlers used golf shoes when they went bowling. And she swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Man, good times, good times. Now, one of the most famous examples of mass gullibility occurred back in October of 1938 when a then young Orson Welles, who went on to become a very famous actor and director, did a radio broadcast of a little-known science fiction story, War of the Worlds. Now, you may have heard of War of the Worlds. It was turned into a movie a couple of times. Back in 1953, it was done and starred Gene Barry, and then just a couple years ago in 2005 with Tom Cruise. But back in 1938, it was one of H.G. Wells's lesser-known works. And Orson Welles and his CBS Mercury Theater group, their adaptation was extremely innovative. Basically, the first half of the hour-long program was a series of news bulletins that interrupted what seemed to be a normal radio broadcast. And the increasingly urgent on-the-scene reporters described how Martians were attacking New Jersey and New York, and it created a widespread panic. People were up in arms, literally, arming themselves, getting ready to take on the Martians. That, or they were packing to get out of town. And police stations and radio stations all over the U.S. got thousands and thousands of calls. A 1966 study said that perhaps as many as 1.2 million out of the approximately 5 to 6 million listeners thought that we were being invaded. So, how do you keep from being a gullible person? Well, you have to become more critical of what you're being told. You shouldn't take things at face value. You need to take things with a grain of salt. You need to use your mind and think things through. Is it reasonable? Does it make sense? Who's the person that's giving you the information? Are they credible? Would they have any reason to mislead you or tell you something that isn't true? These are all things that you should take into consideration before you start believing something's true. Now, some people may feel that the President of the United States is a very credible source of information. And I'm sure the President would never have any reason to mislead the public. Yeah. Now, I don't mean just Bush. All of the presidents have at one time or another been known to, shall we say, stretch the truth. Remember, the best way to tell a lie is to tell the truth. Just don't tell all of it. Now, your teachers are pretty credible, and generally they're going to tell you the truth. But even there, they're actually just telling you what they feel is true. And that isn't always the case. You got to remember, at one point in time, they used to teach people that the Earth was flat and that Pluto was a planet. Bottom line, if it's a small matter like what kind of shoes to wear to the bowling alley, if it makes sense, if it seems reasonable, it's logical, and your gut feeling says that it's right, then I'd say go ahead and agree with what you're being told. If you get fooled, it's no big deal. Be the first one to laugh at yourself. However, if it's a little bit more monumental, like say an invasion, you might want to do a little more research before you jump on the bandwagon. Well, I'm pretty much out of time. If you have any stories about being gullible, put it down in the comments. Don't forget to let me know how I'm doing. Rate my video. Please subscribe. And I'll see you next time. For Stupid Oops, take care. David! Get out of the street!